Welcome to Chalk Talk with Chuck. I am Chuck, and today I've got a fact checker. O'Reilly John Lamb is sitting to the side of me. He's going to fact check all of my mistakes that I make for NFL free agency. But as you can probably tell, today's going to be about NFL free agency for the most part. I'll go over a little bit of NBA stuff. And before we get to all of that, I'll address the NCAA tournament, and here's my take on that. College basketball's fun. It's entertaining. It starts in the middle of the NFL season. By the time the NFL's done, I want to start watching the NBA because it's interesting. And the second part to this complaint, and it's not really even a complaint, it's just the second part is to the reason why I don't follow it all the time, is because in a span of 2 weeks, every team that matters and every player that matters plays in their conference tournament. So anybody who I'm supposed to see, any team that I'm supposed to see, it's all happening at once. And I know that I don't gather all of the proper information to fill out a perfect bracket, but nobody's ever filled out a perfect bracket, so who the hell cares? It's super entertaining at the perfect time to be super entertaining, like right in between the NFL draft and the push for the NBA finals. It falls right in the perfect area, but I don't have any like takes or advice for anybody on it. And haven't watched enough to have an educated opinion because of what I just laid out to you. So, yeah, today's primarily going to be about NFL free agency, which started on Monday. And Monday or Tuesday, Riley? Monday. Started on Monday, and since it started has just been electric. There's been rumors about trades for two major quarterbacks in the NFL. And one of them fell apart so hilariously. Like, I don't feel bad for Chicago, because figure it out. Could have drafted Patrick Mahomes, wouldn't be having this conversation. Could have drafted Deshaun Watson, wouldn't be having this conversation. And last week on the pod, I said J.J. Watt signed with the Texans, and that was a mistake. He actually signed with the Cardinals, and I'm going to give a little 2-minute spiel on why I just don't get this at all. He leaves Houston because Houston's a dumpster fire. They had a horrible head coach. They had Bill O'Brien, who burns the city down. And he's like, oh, you know what I want to do? I want to go play for Cliff Kingsbury with a worse quarterback and hope that I'm going to what? Like, they're not competing for a Super Bowl. So if you're J.J. Watt and you're at this point in your career, what do you want to do? Do you want to compete for a Super Bowl? Do you want to make a lot of money? Do you want to play with your family? Those were like the three options to me on the table for him, right? Contender, money, family. Well, Pittsburgh didn't have any money to give him, so that was off the table pretty quickly. Okay, well, Pittsburgh doesn't give me any money. He's not getting huge deals because he's old and has injury history, so that's off the table. Well, now the last thing there is contender. And he's like, fuck it, I'll go play for the fourth best team in the NFC West. I'm going to go play for the loser of the NFC West, who has been, by the way, the loser of the NFC West since Carson Palmer. I just don't get it. Like, does he want to retire there? Bro, you're 30. Why would you retire there? Why would you think about retirement now? People who retire in Arizona retire when they're 65 to 70. Not when they're 34. And are him and DeAndre Hopkins just that good of friends? Like, I'm sure somebody's going to do a puff piece about it where, here are the 7 reasons why he went, or maybe they already have, but none of them add up in my brain. Dude, win a Super Bowl. You've got all the defensive player of the years things. Just like ingrain yourself in NFL history in the way that really everyone's measuring it, and that's by Super Bowls. So yeah, there's my spiel on what happened there. I just didn't get it at all. And the Steelers are losing everybody, which breaks my heart. It's so hard to watch guys that you see your team develop just lose everybody. Mike Hilton went to the Bengals. Riley's nodding. Tyson Alualu went to Jacksonville. They let Vince Williams go. I mean, it just sucks. It's like the Reigns of Castamere, that episode in Game of Thrones, where it's like watching it the second time. Like, oh, fuck, I know exactly what's going to happen here. And you're looking at all the people on Twitter and they're just like, oh, not another one of my favorite Steelers. It's like, yeah, no shit. They're not going to be able to pay Juju, Bud Dupree. Oh, Bud Dupree hurt the most. Cameron Sutton, Tyson Alu, and Vince Williams. Charlie Villanueva. All of these guys. It sucks. Sucks, but they're gone, and the Steelers are going to go probably like 9-8 or whatever it is with the extra game this season, just above 500. You hate that for your team, just above 500. So I didn't want to like sit on the boring Steelers who aren't buying anything talk for too long, especially when there's the Russell Westbrook's or the Russell Wilson stuff. The Russell Wilson stuff is fascinating. None of the teams that he wants to go to correlate in any way. Like Vegas, I get it. He wants to play with John Gruden, who's who's supposed to be some quarterback guru. But then you look at Chicago, and it's like, what's Chicago's appeal? They like to run the ball and play defense just like Seattle does, except for they actually have a defense. Man, Seattle can't keep anybody. Shaq, what's that guy's name?
Griffin.
Shaquille Griffin. Yeah, Shaquille Griffin's gone. He left. Where'd he go?
Twins. They went to Jacksonville.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they both went. Both the Griffin twins go to Jacksonville. Jacksonville loaded up in the like days 2 and 3. Day 1 they didn't do anything. But yeah, that was weird. The Chicago thing, maybe it's the city and his wife, and Vegas is the city and his wife, but then why not New York, who's not on his short list? I don't know. He obviously he wants maybe. Well, I say obviously, but does he want to go somewhere where he can air it out? I'd like to see him play in an area that lets him just throw the ball. So, and of course, reports have come out. Chicago took a big swing at him, which I made an argument on a prior podcast that you should take big swings at guys. Generational talented quarterbacks don't force themselves out of situations ever in the NFL. Or it rarely happens. Philip Rivers or Eli Manning did it before he signed with the Giants, like before the draft. But, from the generation of quarterbacks that I grew up watching, Rodgers, Roethlisberger, Rivers, Manning, Brady, Breeze, none of those guys forced themselves out of situations. And all of a sudden, you've got two guys that are like, I could go, and here's my list of teams that I would get rid of the no trade clause for. So I think you should take big swings. If you're Chicago, you should take huge swings. And they missed. And it seems like now everybody thinks Russ is going to stay. I don't know. Maybe closer to draft day, we get the trade that is accepted. Why not go play in Miami, Russ? It's warm there. They've got a good defense. Got pieces on offense. Just something to think about. I know you're listening. Watson has to be so bummed, man. Because he announces that he wants to be traded and then nothing happens because Russ announces he wants to be traded, and Russ has just like got the Super Bowl and is like and went to the playoffs and has been winning a little bit more than he has. But man, Deshaun's just as good as he is, and nobody's talking about his trade value, even though silently the Texans signed Tyrod Taylor. To me, that says, oh, we're drafting the quarterback of our future. Because Tyrod Taylor is the quarterback that you have on your team before you draft the quarterback of your future. And a good sign for the Texans fans, all the quarterbacks that he's started ahead of and then not finished the season out in front of have turned out to be really good players. Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, it kills me to say this, but Baker Mayfield. They're all starting quarterbacks, and I'm pretty sure Herbert will be in the playoffs sooner than later. And, Allen and Baker won playoff games this year. So Tyrod is a good sign that you're on the bridge to your new franchise quarterback. And maybe they're going to trade to the Jets. And that's a little bit of a joke, right? I mean, I don't know if they're going to trade with the Jets, but the Bengals loaded up on the secondary and defensive end. They got Trey Hendrickson after they lost another one of their Carl Lawson, their defensive lineman. They lost him To the Saints, I think, right? Where did Carl? Yeah, I don't know where he. No, he went to the Jets. He went to the Jets. And they'd lose him, but then bring in Trey Hendrickson. I loved Trey Hendrickson last year. The guy plays with no gloves, and he talks a lot of shit. It's kind of just fun to watch. And I think it's a good signing. I mean, he's probably a little bit worse than the guy they had there than Lawson, but they got a bunch of good defenders.
As of like 25 minutes ago, Schefter tweeted they got a 1 year deal out to Galladay for a prove it deal. The
Who?
Bengals. The Bengals.
And the Bengals just got to deal with Galladay.
Wow. It's a 1 year deal out there. It'd be like his prove it deal. He's considering all offers, but that's out there too.
So I mean, they're making swings, which is sweet. But the only thing I can't figure out is your offensive line was terrible, and you haven't signed a single offensive lineman. Joe Burrow broke his leg in half on TV, and everybody watched it and was like, "Oh my god, that's one of the most gruesome, horrible injuries." And they're like, "Well, we could watch that again. We'll put every other piece out there on the field, but we'll just watch Joe run for his life on one leg." Like, I get it, you're going to draft Penny Sewell or whatever, but that's one guy. And rookie offensive linemen typically don't step in and play that well. So, Cincinnati, keep taking swings at all these guys. I mean, I love it. Kenny Galladay, Mike Hilton, a couple of other guys in the secondary, a guy from who's the safety from Los Angeles went there, from the Rams went there.
Cleveland.
Oh, he went to Cleveland, didn't he? Yeah, he went to Cleveland. Never mind. But they shored up the secondary, and that's great. But shore up the one thing that you really need to shore up, which is your O line, because God, whew, I'd hate to see Joe Burrow get fucking walloped like he did all last year. Yeah. Okay. So Fitzmagic is in DC. I couldn't be more excited. That's the weirdest division in football. I don't know what's going to happen in Philadelphia. I guess they're just going to roll with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. I don't know. Philadelphia has this weird mentality where it's like, we don't have a starting quarterback and a backup. We have quarterback one and quarterback two. Hey, bad idea. You don't want your starting quarterback, to be looking over his shoulder all the time. I know it worked for you with Nick Foles, but Carson Wentz was having an MVP season. There was no way you were going to bench him for Nick Foles. It was going to take the injury, which happened, for Foles to play. But I don't think you want your starting quarterback being like, I just threw a pick. Is this guy going to sub me? Or I just had a bad, 2 bad games in a row. Is this guy going to replace me? And he's thinking about that all week. That's just bad. That's piss poor management style. I don't like it. And obviously, I think it cost Peterson a little bit of his job. He just shot the confidence of his starting quarterback into the dirt, guy that was going to win MVP. Yeah. So, but Philadelphia, God knows what's going to happen there. The Cowboys got to sign somebody on defense to play some form of defense there, because they were fucking awful last year. And, they got to protect Dak, so they got to shore up the line too. But it just looks like, they went out and got William Jackson III from Cincinnati, who's supposed to be one of the best corners in the NFL. I think he is one of the best corners in the NFL, to add to the secondary that was already really good last year. They have one of the best D lines in football with Montez Sweat and Chase Young. And they have good running backs and good receivers, and Logan Thomas at tight end. I mean, they've got everything. All they need is a quarterback, and it's like, fuck it. Ryan Fitzpatrick will throw for 380 yards and 4 touchdowns one game, and then the next game he'll turn around and throw for 4 interceptions. But it tends to be 2 or 3 more games that are positive than negative with him. And maybe he does end up, carrying them to the playoffs. I don't think he's going to carry anyone to a Super Bowl ever, but the playoffs for sure. So that's exciting. I think if I had to pick right now, I'd say the football team to win the division. I think I've said Redskins a few times. There's the fact check from O'Reilly right there. The Landon Collins fact check. He keeps chiming in. He can't help himself. I knew if I put him in the seat, he wouldn't be able to help himself. There he is. Just a little fact check from him. They're bringing back Landon Collins. Colin's a good player. They're going to be so fucking sick. They're going to be fun to watch. I'm excited. I'm excited. A silent signing that nobody's talking about that surprises me is Emmanuel Sanders has been signed to the Bills. And to me, that's like the perfect fit. Emmanuel Sanders has the skill to be a number one receiver. And I think he was the number one wide receiver in San Francisco, but he wasn't their best pass catcher. That was Kittle the year they went to the Super Bowl. But he's got the speed to get open. He's got the route skills. He's got a full route tree. He can play inside. He can play outside. He's a very good second receiver, and that's what he's going to be next to Stephon Diggs. And when you look at his career as the two guy, I mean, he's the two guy in San Francisco, and he's super valuable. He was the two guy in Pittsburgh next to Antonio Brown early in his career, and he was valuable. And he was the two guy in Denver, and he was very valuable. And I think that that's what New Orleans thought they were getting until Michael Thomas decided just not to play football this year. And they thought that they were going to get this super valuable wide receiver too that was going to help them make that push for the Super Bowl, and they just didn't have a wide receiver one to put him next to, and now everyone's like, Sanders, he's washed. You watch, he's going to have a great season in Buffalo. Fantasy owners, put it on your alert system. Emmanuel Sanders is going to have a good year. A lot of catches. He's like John Brown, but better, and they just let John Brown go. Where did Brown go? New England?
Raiders.
The Raiders. To the Raiders. New England, man, they spent an ocean of money. The year of Bill Belichick with cap space. And, everyone's saying this, but it's obvious Bill Belichick just hated being the New England Patriots football coach last year. That team fucking sucked. But I'm making this point, and I've been making it all week, and I'm going to stick to it. You can sign Randy Moss in his prime right now. I don't think it moves the needle into the playoff position because Cam Newton was throwing one-hoppers to his receivers all year last year. And I know the receivers were essentially janitors, but all I've heard from New England fans is Bill Belichick can turn janitors into Super Bowl wide receivers. I've heard it my whole life because Tom Brady played quarterback for the Patriots for essentially my whole sports viewing life. And he and he didn't get really all the credit for what those receivers were doing. And maybe he deserved more because we saw like a list of janitors playing receiver for Bill Belichick last year, and none of them were any good. And it was partially because his quarterback couldn't get him the ball. I mean, he threw 9 touchdown passes. That's ass. That's terrible. So, New England fans, figure it out. Is Belichick the janitor Super Bowl maker, or does he actually need weapons? And I know, he lost Tom Brady, but I just like to complain about Bill Belichick. They got Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, 2 good guys. Obviously, they're gonna do the 2 tight end set like when they had the murderer and Rob Gronkowski playing for them. And they I think they got Nelson Aguilar, who's really fast, who played really well for the Raiders last year after coming off one of the worst wide receiver seasons I think you could have in Philadelphia. He made people forget about those drops real quick. But yeah, they spent a bunch of money, and they're bringing back a lot of guys. Devonta Hightower, the McCourty brothers. These are guys who just didn't play last year because of COVID. And I think Chase Winovich is going to be a lot better with a guy like Hightower there, kind of coaching him up, putting him in places he needs to be, not having to navigate the second level by himself. Essentially, is what I'm saying. Not having to navigate that space as a middle linebacker in a Bill Belichick defense without a veteran next to you. That's a tough spot to put a guy. So I think the defense is going to be good, but I think that the division's going to shake out pretty similarly to the way it did last year, and that is, Buffalo 1, Patriots and Dolphins 2A and 2B, and maybe the 2A gets the playoff spot because the AFC North has a bunch of playoff teams. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore are all teams that could make the playoffs. And the AFC South is going to be, absolute piss water on the bottom end with Houston and Jacksonville. So the top two teams there, Indianapolis and uh, Tennessee, shouldn't have too much of a problem making it into the playoffs. So it's an interesting, I don't know if it moves the needle 5 wins. It's just weird to me. Any other big signings, Riley?
AJ Green went to.
Yeah, AJ Green goes to the Cardinals. Again, the Cardinals just putting together the all 2011 team. Like, not all 2000, all 2015 team. D Hop, Watt, and and AJ Green. If you told me all three of those guys were on the same team my freshman year of college, I'd have shit myself. But AJ Green had a pretty rough year last year. He clearly wasn't happy with the situation in Cincinnati. And Tyler Boyd played really well. Boyd's just a good player. What a fantasy guy. I like him. Uh, I, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of like what Cincinnati's doing, man. If they can get an O line, just like a one that can at least give Burrow a little bit of time to think, and Joe Mixon a little bit of time to create in the backfield, I think they're gonna be dangerous. And they're not gonna go 3, 4 wins anymore. They start winning games. It's just interesting. The NFL is going to be so weird, and nothing about this free agency has really given me direction as to like what teams are going to do in the draft. I can't tell what New York is planning to do. I thought, maybe New York will make a push to get a lot of weapons so that they can bring in the quarterback of their future in a situation with a lot of good weapons, but it doesn't look like they're really doing that. And the only like waving flags and you know strobing lights is the fact that Houston signed Tyrod and Cincinnati's not doing anything with the O line. And I think I want to leave the door open to the fact that maybe New England can trade for Jimmy G. I just love the idea of that. New England trades for Jimmy G, and then Kyle Shanahan's like, all right, I'm going to go get Sam Darnold. And then Houston trades for Watson for the second pick, and Houston gets the kid out of Ohio State. Because oh my God, I want New York to take that kid. I want New York to take that kid out of BYU. I hate BYU, and I'm going to be unapologetic about it. Um, and I think it would just be hilarious if New York took him and then he just like didn't pan out. Just because it's such it's a classic New York move, which would be funny because the Jets just can't figure it out. And B, I don't want to like cheer against Zach Wilson. He's actually a lot of fun to watch, and he seems like a good kid. But just like my hatred for BYU can't be overcome by that. Drives me nuts. He is electric though, Zach Wilson. He's just got balls, man. That guy will throw the ball into any space. Oh, is that a quarter of an inch window between a linebacker, two safeties, and a dropping defensive end? I'm going to rip it in there and see if I can fit it. Oh, that opening's about the size of a football. Maybe a Nerf football. He's just going to gun it in there. And like he didn't play anybody good this year. The one team he played, Coastal Carolina, that was good, he lost to. I just don't think it's a good pick, especially in New York. Maybe if he went somewhere with more structure, it'd be a lot better, but New York's just a fucking wildfire. God, figure it out, Jets. Figure it out. That'll be it. That'll be it for the NFL shit. Free agency is going to keep going. Once the free agency and draft is over, it's going to be like I'm going to do the way too early fantasy football show. And that'll be fun. I won my fantasy league, and Riley's in the fantasy league, and I like to remind him of that whenever I get the chance. But yeah, I think I have a guy that'll want to be the guest on that too. And it'll be fun. Have him come on and do it. He's, I'll leave that a mystery. All right, like literally as I'm recording this, Riley summons himself from his room to tell me that I have written down in my notes because we're here doing the NBA stuff. I've written down in my notes, is the East any fun at all anyway? Because Joel goes out with the injury. We don't know. I mean, they said a couple of weeks, but he's not going to win the MVP. So there's the MVP push, and the East is kind of gone because nobody's going to give it back to Giannis. The Bucks haven't been that exciting. Boston's been disappointing. The best thing for the East all year has been the 76ers, and they just haven't been very good. Or not, sorry. Not that they haven't been very good, but they just lost their best player. And then Riley comes in here and he's like, well, yeah, but Milwaukee just traded for PJ Tucker and Torrey Craig and are. I mean, this is it for Milwaukee. They're making huge moves. They and they're all defensive, which is funny because like PJ Tucker's a 3-and-D guy who Houston had been miraculously getting away with playing at the 5 in their ultra small ball lineup. So they get another 3-and-D guy. They have Drew Holiday. Who else they signed this offseason? Are they making any other offseason moves? Yeah, Holiday's the main one. But they have like they got rid of Bledsoe, which was it felt like they got the better piece there. But then they just really weren't as good as we thought they would be. Or they weren't winning the amount of games that they were last year, and maybe people start talking about, is Giannis just the ultimate regular season guy? Well, I don't know. PJ Tucker's going to provide a lot for them. I mean, he's scrappy. People hate him, and I think that there's something about having the guy that people hate on your team, like the Draymond Green or the Marcus Smart, or that style of player where it's like, God, everybody hates this guy, but when he's on your team, you fucking love him. And there's something to be said about having that guy on your team, especially when you just have a slew of talent around just this massive, freakish dude that Giannis is. It's incredible. And now, now it's exciting again. And maybe trades always make things exciting. And you watch PJ Tucker's going to have some monster game. I think it's there should be a new rule. And it's the game after you get traded rule where you're just bound to drop buckets. I saw, who is that guy? Bobby Portis play out of his mind after getting traded to the Wizards. Do you remember that, Riley? Yeah, he played Cleveland, and Cleveland was dog shit, but man, he played out of his mind. So yeah, I think the Bucks will be fun. I think the Bucks are kind of fun. They just don't play a lot on national television, and people don't talk about them enough. But that's an exciting move. Kurix is in that deal. I love Kurix, man. The guy throws bows. He's also he had like a dunk that started the whole Nets dancing meme back in 2018, 19. Yeah, the Jarrett Allen and D'Angelo Russell year. God, that year was fun. Wish there were more teams like that. That's what Charlotte feels like this year, which is fun to watch. Man, Charlotte's fun to watch. Riley and I sat down and watched the Knicks Nets game on Monday night. That game was awesome. Julius Randle definitely deserved to be angry at the end of the game. And, the refs do this thing where at the end of every NBA game now, and I know that this bit has been talked about quite a bit, but it's like they just stop the game for 4 to 5 minutes in the middle of the most intense part of the game, and then they usually come out with the verdict that is less exciting for the game. So, for example, in this last game, with like 30 seconds left, the Knicks forced a tie up, and they called a foul, and then they reviewed it. And usually when they do that, they can either come back for a jump ball, or they can just keep the play as called on the court. And usually they come back and they're like, it's a foul, and then we watch the foul, the other team shoot free throws until the game's over. But instead they made the fun call, and they said jump ball. And then Knicks got the jump ball, and they made, and it made the game exciting. It made the game exciting. And that was cool because you went from thinking that there was going to be no excitement to excitement, and then to watch the refs fuck up up and down call and call Julius Randle for up and down after very clearly Kyrie Irving had made contact with the ball. Just sucks when shit like that happens, man. The refs in the NBA, fucking awful. They're so bad. And nobody is criticizing them enough, I feel. The officiating in the NBA is so bad. It's bad in other sports too. I mean, I feel like it's always easy to say that officiating's bad, but in the NBA, it feels particularly bad. The judgment calls are infuriating. They need to define the rules better so that I'm not freaking out every 30 seconds in my living room. And you see the players going over to chirp at him, and you're like, oh, I hate when I see players chirp. Are you kidding me? Some of these calls are dog shit, and they're not, and there are just noticeably super star calls, and the superstar calls are bullshit. What do you mean you're X good in the league, so now you get calls? And that's just a widely accepted fact. It's a widely accepted fact in the NBA community that if you get paid X amount and if you are this an all-star this many times or an all NBA guy this many times, you get different calls than other players. They're rules, they're fouls. Do you know where when we talk about Supreme Court justices in this country, we talk about them calling balls and strikes, meaning non-judgment calls. They're just calling it by the rules as they see it. That's what officials are supposed to do. And in the NBA, they're like, we don't really call balls. Well, obviously, they don't call balls and strikes, but they're like, we don't really call charges and blocks equally. We call them based on who has the ball in their hand. That's fucking bullshit. They need to figure that out. You can't be like, oh, well, LeBron James visits the line X amount of times compared to other guys, and I know LeBron has the ball more, and I'm sure one of these NBA geeks, because the NBA has just this pool of nerds who are really into the sport because of the analytics, can figure out a stat to show that LeBron James gets all-star calls. Because every fan accepts it as a reality. Like, that wouldn't be a foul on Joe Ingles, but that's a foul on LeBron because he's LeBron. Like, stop it. Figure it out, NBA. Figure it out. And I know there are players who are specifically hard to officiate for. Like, Shaq was a specifically hard guy for refs. They couldn't figure out how to officiate him in games because he was so physical. And I think LeBron presents that same sort of challenge for them. But James Harden doesn't present that challenge. James Harden flares his limbs left and right, looking for fouls, and refs know that he's looking for fouls, so refs call fouls. Because he's James Harden, and he's created a reputation of drawing fouls out of refs. Bad. Bad for the sport. Bad for the sport. Stop letting it happen. Sorry to go off like that, but it's infuriating. You think as a fan it's infuriating, right, Riley?
Terrible. Slows the game down.
Slows the game down. The most exciting part about basketball are those closing 3 minutes, and the refs have just decided, like, we're going to be a part of it. We want to be a part of the show. Oh, God. Could you imagine if you were in court and the judge was like, yeah, I know we're in closing arguments, but let me chime in here for a minute? You'd be like, what the fuck is going on? Like, oh, I know you're about to get to the core part of your argument, sir, but let me review the tape as to whether what you said prior was okay for 5 minutes and then go over language. Oh, you'd be so pissed. It's just terrible. It's just terrible. But yeah, so I mean, huge news in the NBA is Joel Embiid goes down and the MVP push for him is over. So what does the rest of the season look like for him now that he's not going to probably win the MVP? If you're the 76ers, the East looks pretty wide open. I'd rest him as much as possible. I'd make sure, because your window is closing. Your all-star point guard doesn't want to evolve his game. That's such a bad trait in a player. The one thing that I want to give James Harden credit for, and I don't give James Harden credit for a lot, is that he has changed his game from place to place. He's the sixth man guy in Oklahoma City. He's the primary ball handler, obnoxious James Harden. Like, that's James Harden 2.0 that we get in Houston that everybody hates because of the foul thing. And then he goes to Brooklyn and he's the distributor. He's awesome. And he keeps recreating himself. That's a great sign in a player, a guy that's willing to change. And Ben Simmons is like, I don't care if you want me to learn how to shoot. Bad sign. It's like Russell Westbrook. He's uncoachable. Could be as nice of a guy and as good of a guy as you want, but if he's not willing to change his game and figure out how to play more modern, what's the point? Where's he gonna? What's the ceiling that he's gonna get to? Changing the game is getting better, and Ben Simmons is like, I don't want to get any better, and I don't. Maybe that's not true, and I know this guy gets a lot of hate, and he does put up ridiculous numbers, but as a fan and as someone who likes good competition in the game, you want to see this guy play at his best potential. You want to see him play be the best version of himself possible. Because that's better for everybody. That's better for all viewers of the game, is if he is the best version of himself that is possible. And he's just like, I don't want to get there, man. I don't want to figure out how to shoot. It's weird. So if I'm Philadelphia, I rest him and I rest Joel Embiid until we get into the playoffs, and then I let him go balls to the walls and hope that he doesn't get injured and make a push for the finals. The West is crazy with talent. Phoenix is on a huge run. Phoenix is going to destroy the Jazz's hopes of making the finals if they get the 2 seed. If they get the 2 seed and then the 3 and the 4 seed are the Lakers and the Clippers, that is so bad for Utah. Because that means you got to play one of those guys in the second round. You want 2 and 3 to be Lakers, Clippers, 4 to be Phoenix if you're Utah. And they're all right up in there, kind of bunched together. Yeah, you really need at least the 2 to the 3 seed to be the Lakers. I don't want to play the Lakers in the second round. I'll play the Clippers. It'd be a hell of a series, and if we beat the Clippers, we'd earn the respect of the league, and I think that would be great. I think I'm fairly confident the Jazz could beat Phoenix in a 7-game series in the second round. Think so, Riley? I think the Jazz could handle business.
The way they're playing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, the way they're playing now, yeah, I think they could handle Phoenix, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to beat the Lakers and have to beat the Clippers and then go and beat the Lakers. They could beat one of those teams once if they got lucky. We don't know how serious the Anthony Davis injury is. Is there any window on him coming back? Have you heard any updates? No. And if I'm LA, I'm like, oh, well, we'll just rest him. LeBron will carry us there. LeBron might win MVP now that JoJo's gone. He might win MVP. Him or the Joker. The Joker's put together a crazy season. Denver's just starting to figure out that they're a good NBA team again. And that's the bad thing about the West, man. All these teams are good. All you can hope for is that you get one of these high seeds and you get lucky and play a bad team in the first round. But who knows? Who knows how it's going to shake out? It's been a crazy season. So, yeah, those are my takes for the week, I think. I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up. The NBA is just starting to get back from the All-Star break. So games are starting to get interesting again. March Madness is starting up. I filled out my bracket today. I think I had Ohio State and Michigan in the final just because I want to see that and because it's possible. It's like anytime that you can have 2 rival schools be in the finals, and it's like kind of realistic, like do it. Why not? I mean, I don't know what the outcome's going to be. But yeah, cheer for the Aggies in the first round. I have them in all my brackets upsetting Texas Tech. I didn't even look who they were playing. I was like, fuck it, dude. They're playing Texas Tech or A&M.
Playing Texas Tech or Red Raiders.
Yeah.
McClung. 16.
Yeah, McClung. What does he call him? McClung? Mystery takes guy who sometimes I reveal his takes on the pod calls him McClung. His take for the year is that Harden's going to win MVP or should win MVP. Not a bad take. So, yeah. Enjoy the week of sports. I'll be back with you next Wednesday or Thursday. Peace.